It was an ordinary Sunday afternoon in Spanish Lake, Missouri, December 18th, 2011. Winter sun filtered through the bare trees, casting long shadows across the Coldon family's home. Inside the house carried the comfortable stillness of a weekend. In the driveway sat a black 1998 Chevy Blazer, its windows reflecting the gray sky. At around 3 in the afternoon, 23-year-old Phoenix Lucille Coldon walked out the front door. She didn't announce where she was going. She didn't carry much with her, only a few belongings. She simply slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and pulled away. For her parents, Goldia and Lawrence, this was nothing unusual. Phoenix came and went often. Sometimes she drove to see friends, sometimes to pick up things from the store, sometimes just to be alone with her thoughts. It wasn't the kind of departure that raises alarms. But that drive was the last time her parents would ever see her. Hours later, across the Mississippi River in East St. Louis, Illinois, the same Chevy Blazer was found abandoned. The keys were still in the ignition. The engine was still running. The driver's door hung open, as though someone had stepped out mid-motion. Inside the vehicle sat Phoenix's personal belongings. Her shoes, her glasses, her purse with her ID, even her cell phone. All the things a young woman carries with her, left behind as if she had only walked a few feet away. But Phoenix herself was gone. No witnesses, no camera footage, no clear trail to follow. One moment, she was behind the wheel. The next, she had simply vanished. This is Hidden Case Files. And tonight, we unravel the disappearance of Phoenix Coldon, a case that seemed at first like a simple missing person story, but revealed itself to be far more complicated. Phoenix wasn't just a college student who vanished. She was a daughter, a gifted musician, a fencer, a woman caught between two worlds, the one her parents believed she lived in, and the secret life she carved out for herself when no one was watching. Her story raises uncomfortable questions about identity, faith, and freedom. And it leaves us wondering, did Phoenix Coldon walk away by choice? Was she taken? Or was she living a life so divided that it pulled her into something she couldn't escape? If you find yourself drawn into cases like this one, the ones that demand answers but leave us only with shadows, make sure to subscribe to Hidden Case Files. Because here, we tell the stories that can't be allowed to disappear. To understand Phoenix's disappearance, we have to step back into the life she lived before everything unraveled. Phoenix was born in 1988, the only child of Goldia and Lawrence Coldon. From the start, she was her parents' pride, their miracle. Raised in a devout Christian home, her life was structured, guided by rules of faith, responsibility, and discipline. And Phoenix thrived under that structure. She was a talented musician, mastering the piano with both grace and precision. She also excelled in fencing, a sport demanding speed, strategy, and sharp mental focus. It wasn't just a pastime. It became one of her defining skills, a mark of her dedication and competitiveness. Her parents saw her as disciplined, responsible, and on the path to success. She was enrolled at the University of Missouri, St. Louis, working toward a future that promised stability and achievement. But underneath that surface, Phoenix was restless. She was 23 years old, caught in that space between childhood expectations and adult independence. To her parents, she was still their obedient daughter. But Phoenix was beginning to carve out a separate existence, one she never fully shared with them. When Phoenix disappeared, her parents believed she was attending classes full-time. But investigators quickly discovered she hadn't been enrolled for months. Without telling her family, she had quietly withdrawn from her courses. The revelation stunned her parents. They had no idea, and it was only the beginning. Investigators learned that Phoenix had more than one cell phone. She used aliases online. She had friends her parents had never met. She was living, in many ways, a double life. Her social media showed pieces of a world very different from the one she displayed at home. There were hints of strained relationships, arguments with boyfriends, and a growing desire to live by her own rules instead of those laid out by her parents' strict faith. To Goldia and Lawrence, these discoveries felt like betrayals. But to investigators, they suggested something else. Phoenix might have been in turmoil, and turmoil often leaves people vulnerable. The discovery of Phoenix's blazer remains one of the most haunting elements of this case. When police found it, it was sitting in the middle of the road in East St. Louis, an area known for high crime. The engine was running. The driver's door was wide open. Everything Phoenix would need to continue her day, her glasses, her shoes, her ID, was left inside. There were no signs of a struggle inside the vehicle. No blood, no broken glass, nothing to suggest violence, but also no trace of Phoenix leaving on her own. It looked like interruption, like someone had stopped her mid-motion. And yet, East St. Louis police impounded the vehicle without immediately notifying her parents. The Coldons wouldn't even know where their daughter's SUV was until weeks later. Critical time was lost, and with it, possible evidence that might have explained what happened. From the very beginning, the investigation into Phoenix's disappearance was plagued with confusion. Jurisdiction issues between Missouri and Illinois slowed the process. Miscommunication between agencies meant evidence wasn't always shared promptly. For the Coldons, it felt like their daughter's case wasn't being taken seriously. To them, Phoenix was more than a missing person. She was their world. But to the system, she became another file in a stack of unresolved cases. As days turned into weeks, the Coldons launched their own search efforts. They distributed flyers. They appeared in media interviews. They pushed tirelessly to keep Phoenix's name alive. But each lead brought them more questions than answers. As the search deepened, more of Phoenix's hidden life began to surface. She had a boyfriend her parents barely knew about. She had friends outside her family's church circle. Some who spoke of her feeling suffocated at home. Some who suggested she wanted to run away and start fresh. Even more disturbing were reports that Phoenix had been using multiple phones and possibly different identities online. She was talking to people her family had never heard of, cultivating connections that existed entirely outside their knowledge. To her parents, it was shocking. To investigators, it was a lead. Who were these people? And did one of them hold the key to her disappearance? Over time, several theories emerged about what might have happened to Phoenix Coldon. The first theory was that she had been the victim of foul play. East St. Louis was a dangerous place, with high rates of violent crime. A young woman alone in a running car could easily have been targeted. A robbery, a carjacking, an abduction. But if that was the case, why was nothing taken? Why were her belongings still inside the car? Another theory suggested that Phoenix had walked away voluntarily, that she had grown tired of the life she was living, the strictness of her home, the double existence she was maintaining. Maybe she had chosen to leave it all behind and start over somewhere new. But if she had planned her escape, why leave behind essentials like her glasses and her purse? Why leave her phone? And why leave her car running in such a conspicuous place? The third theory was darker still: human trafficking. East St. Louis has long been considered a hub for trafficking activity. A young woman alone vulnerable could have been targeted and taken quickly, leaving behind little trace. It was a chilling possibility, one that investigators couldn't ignore. Goldia and Lawrence refused to give up. For them, the mystery wasn't just about what happened. It was about who their daughter really was. They hired private investigators. They appeared on television, including the Oxygen documentary series The Disappearance of Phoenix Coldon. They followed every possible lead, no matter how slim. They learned things about their daughter they had never known, details that hurt, but also painted a fuller picture of who she had become. For Goldia, the hardest part was realizing her daughter had kept so much hidden. "It's like we didn't even know her," she once said. But for Lawrence, the focus remained on hope, on the possibility that Phoenix might still be alive, waiting to be found. The most compelling element of Phoenix's case remains the double life she led. At home, she was the dutiful daughter, church-going, obedient, talented, reliable. But away from her parents' gaze, she was exploring independence. She had boyfriends, some of whom her parents disapproved of. She had stopped attending college months before, yet continued the charade of being a student. She spoke openly to friends about wanting freedom, about wanting to escape. To some, that suggested voluntary disappearance. To others, it suggested vulnerability, the kind traffickers or predators look for. Her life was a balancing act between two worlds. And when those worlds collided, Phoenix disappeared. East St. Louis's reputation as a trafficking hub cannot be overlooked. Law enforcement experts have confirmed that the area has long been plagued with such crimes. For traffickers, the method is often quick and opportunistic. A young woman alone in a car, a vulnerable moment, a sudden disappearance. The fact that Phoenix's car was left running, her belongings untouched, could support this theory. She may have been lured or forced out, leaving behind everything in the chaos of the moment. For her family, this possibility is the most haunting because it suggests not just disappearance, but unimaginable suffering. The second theory, that Phoenix chose to leave, is harder to dismiss than many want to believe. She was 23, living at home under strict rules, hiding a separate life from her parents. She had stopped attending school, yet maintained the appearance of being a student. She kept secrets, carried multiple phones, and used different identities online. Some friends believed she wanted to start over, that she wanted to escape the weight of her double life. Could Phoenix have staged her own disappearance? Could she have left everything behind, intending to begin anew? It's possible. But if that's true, it means she has lived all these years in silence, never once reaching out to her family. And that silence cuts deepest of all. The third theory is the simplest, and perhaps the most likely, that Phoenix was the victim of foul play. The area where her car was found is dangerous. Violence there is common. Opportunistic crimes happen daily. A running car with its door open is an invitation. Perhaps someone forced her out, intending to rob or assault her. Perhaps something went wrong, but without evidence, it remains only speculation. Phoenix's case gained renewed attention through the Oxygen Network's The Disappearance of Phoenix Coldon. The documentary shed light on her double life and explored the major theories of what may have happened. For the Coldons, it was both painful and necessary. Painful to see their daughter's secrets exposed. Necessary to keep her story alive. Because as years passed, the danger was not just that Phoenix was gone, but that she would be forgotten. For Goldia and Lawrence, the hardest part has always been silence. There's no closure, no body, no definitive evidence of life or death. Just endless questions. Every phone call, every knock at the door carries the weight of hope and fear. Could this be news of Phoenix or another dead end? The uncertainty is its own kind of torment. Through it all, the Coldons have leaned on their faith. For them, God holds the answers they cannot find. Goldia has said she believes her daughter is alive. Lawrence clings to hope as well. For them, giving up is not an option. Why was her car left running? Why were her belongings untouched? Why did she maintain two lives? One for her family, one for herself. And most haunting of all, where is she now? Each question leads to theories. Each theory leads to contradictions. The truth remains just out of reach. What many channels don't focus on is just how deeply divided Phoenix's life really was. It wasn't simply that she had secrets. It was that she lived in two different worlds that could not coexist. In one, she was the perfect daughter, living under her parents' rules. In the other, she was an independent young woman seeking freedom, testing boundaries, and exploring life on her own terms. That tension is at the heart of her disappearance. Because living in two worlds creates risk. Eventually, the walls collapse, and when they did for Phoenix, she was gone. So where does that leave us? If Phoenix was trafficked, she may still be alive, but trapped in a world from which escape is nearly impossible. If she chose to disappear, she could be anywhere, living under another name, determined never to look back. If she was the victim of foul play, her story may have ended that day in East St. Louis. Each theory carries its own pain. Each one offers answers, but no peace. It has been more than a decade since Phoenix Coldon vanished, and still, her case remains unsolved. Her parents continue to search. Her name continues to echo across online forums, documentaries, and podcasts. But the truth, the final truth, remains silent. And so we end where we began. A car left running, a door open, a young woman gone. What happened to Phoenix Coldon? Did she walk away never to return? Was she taken against her will? Or was she pulled into a darkness she never saw coming? We may never know, but here's where you come in. What do you think happened to Phoenix? Was she a victim or an escapee, a woman lost to crime, or a woman who chose a new beginning? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to help keep her story alive, to make sure Phoenix Coldon is never forgotten, share this video. Talk about her case. Keep the questions alive. This has been Hidden Case Files. If you found this story compelling, subscribe and join us as we continue to uncover the mysteries that demand answers. Because silence helps no one, and every missing person deserves to be remembered.